Summer 2016 marked the last time the parents of Moscow resident Viktoria Zaitseva and St. Petersburg native Platon Stepanov would ever see their children alive. Their mutilated bodies would only be discovered during investigative procedures 5 years later. All that time, missing person flyers featuring the girl with big eyes and the boy with light hair hung on bus stops, train stations, and public squares, pleading for help in finding them. But back then, no one realized this story would become a dark stain on law enforcement and acquaintances who knew the teenagers had been devoured, but did nothing about it. Seasoned detectives and volunteers spent those years scouring Moscow and its region, St. Petersburg, and even as far as Karelia for the culprits. It would later emerge that the brutal maniacs were just a young couple from a peculiar interest group. They were so devoted to Satan that they severed limbs from their victims in his name, consumed their remains, and then burned them while performing rituals. How did this monstrous duo from Moscow, with 2 small children of their own, end up as cannibals evading capture for 5 years? What drove them to do it, and more importantly, who became their prey? We'll answer all these questions soon. But for now, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments after watching. This tale begins in June 2016, when 27-year-old Viktoria Zaitseva decided to abandon her life in Moscow. She took out a loan, packed a large backpack with illegal substances and essentials, and left her apartment in Matino. The young woman chose to head to Karelia. As she entered the metro, Vika met her mother one last time, the final moment the woman would see her daughter alive. That day, Viktoria was dressed all in black, wearing an amulet shaped like a black 5-pointed star inside a circle. She told her mom she was going on a hike for a few days but kept quiet about who she was with or where exactly. When people go hiking, they usually pack tents, food, matches, and warm clothes. But Vika traveled light, taking only the backpack she always carried. Her daughter left and stopped responding, but she had warned that communication might be spotty for a while. After a couple of weeks, the mother sensed something was wrong and went to the police. Officers determined that on June 15th, Vika had taken a train from Moscow to Petrozavodsk. She got off the train on the morning of the 16th, and her trail vanished after that. Before leaving, Vika had told her acquaintances that her boyfriend, 34-year-old Andrey Tregubenko, also from Moscow, was waiting for her in Karelia. He had moved to Petrozavodsk a couple of months earlier. The pair shared a lot in common, including a shared faith in Satan. According to the girl, her young man had recently become hooked on alcohol, with his thoughts fixated solely on taking a human life. On top of that, he was using illegal substances, funded by money Zaitseva sent him. Months after her daughter's mysterious disappearance, the mother started getting messages and calls from banks. After all, her daughter had racked up loans totaling 200,000 rubles before vanishing. The debts still needed to be paid. The girl's mother turned to the police. Flyers spread quickly across social media, and volunteers joined the search for the missing woman. Despite all the mother's hopes, her daughter would never return from Karelia. The search for the missing Zaitseva, Viktoria Olegovna, appears 18 to 20 years old, height 167 centimeters, full build, black long hair, dark eyes. Distinguishing features: multiple scars from cuts on left arm from wrist to elbow. At the time of disappearance, wearing black jeans, black hoodie without a hood, black sneakers. On her neck, a black cord with an amulet in the form of a 5-pointed star in a circle. The next few years of searching yielded nothing. Relatives and friends clung to hope for 5 years that Viktoria would resurface. Everyone assumed she had simply run away from home and would show up eventually. Zaitseva's ex-boyfriend described her as kind and very trusting. If she had fled home, it wasn't without reason. And as it later turned out, indeed not without reason. A year before Vika's disappearance, an occult group had formed in Moscow. In spring 2015, Andrey Tregubenko attended one of their gatherings. His views and talks about human sacrifices repelled most participants, but not Viktoria. On June 17, 1987, a boy named Andrey was born into one of Moscow's families. An ordinary child to ordinary parents, and a few years later, a daughter Ksenia joined the family. Tregubenko spent his childhood and youth in a socially stable environment. Both parents led law-abiding lives, had no criminal issues or harmful habits that negatively affected the family's well-being, the children's health, or overall stability. But in 1999, the family's life changed. The parents divorced. Andrey went with his father to Karelia, to a quiet village called Chelmuzhi. There, amid the mysterious Karelian forests, he grew up. In 2004, the 18-year-old Andrey returned to Moscow. Perhaps the moves, or maybe the atmosphere of Karelia itself, awakened his interest in shamanism. He delved into ancient teachings, began fortune-telling with tarot cards, and gradually came to believe in his own exceptionalism, in possessing some kind of magical gift. In the capital, Andrey quickly found like-minded people who shared his passion. Together, they started performing rituals, offering sacrifices in Satan's name. Most often, the victims were black roosters bought from classified ad sites, but sometimes their own blood was used. Later, Andrey began using his blood to create paintings. I can't show the paintings here, so I'll post them in my Telegram channel. The link is in the description. In Moscow, Dmitry, wait, this seems like a typo in the original, likely Andrey, scraped by with odd jobs, had a passion for motorcycles. In the early 2000s, Tregubenko worked as a pastry chef, then as a storekeeper, later as an orderly in the intensive care unit of a hospital in Kaluga region. He described himself as familiar with visual arts, studying dead languages, traveling, tourism, and music. It was then that he joined an occult group where he met Viktoria Zaitseva. The girl fell unrequitedly in love with Andrey, seeking meetings with him and giving him money for alcohol and illegal substances. But soon their occult group disbanded. Tregubenko dropped off the radar of all acquaintances and relatives, leading to him being declared missing in 2014, but he was soon found. What the young man was up to during that time remains unknown. Close ones characterized him overall positively, though they noted he was weak-willed and easily influenced. Sometime later, when Andrey reappeared in the sight of friends and acquaintances, they noticed he had become more aggressive and started drinking heavily. The only ones he kept in touch with all that time were Olga Bolshakova and Viktoria Zaitseva. They were the only ones not scared off by the creepy young man. Olga had been subjected to physical bullying by other children in school and held the status of a social outcast. In a state of stress as a child, Bolshakova became interested in the world of magic and occult sciences, which became a form of escape from the surrounding world for her. After 11th grade, Olga graduated from a tax academy and got a job as an employee in the tax service in suburban Bolshakova. However, she didn't lose her interest in occultism. Besides her strange hobby, she engaged in creativity, had over 1,000 friends and followers on one social network, founded a closed community where she posted her own poems and prose. In 2016, Andrey Tregubenko moved to Petrozavodsk. There, he met Olga Bolshakova, who shared his passion for Satanism. Soon, they became a couple and started living together. Olga quit her job and devoted herself entirely to her beloved and their shared hobby. They began performing rituals more frequently, and their sacrifices grew more extreme. In June 2016, Viktoria Zaitseva arrived in Petrozavodsk to meet Andrey. The couple lured her into their apartment under the pretext of a satanic ritual. There, they drugged her with illegal substances, then strangled her. After the murder, they dismembered the body, ate parts of it, and burned the remains in a ritual fire. The ashes were scattered in the forest near Chelmuzhi village, where Andrey had spent part of his youth. But this wasn't their first crime. Earlier, in 2016, they had killed another victim, a man whose identity remains unknown. His remains were also consumed and disposed of similarly. The couple felt invincible, believing Satan protected them from detection. Meanwhile, in August 2016, 19-year-old Platon Stepanov from St. Petersburg went missing. He had been drawn into the occult scene through online forums. Platon met a couple, Tatiana and Alexander, last names withheld for privacy, who were also involved in Satanism. Tatiana convinced Platon to join a ritual, promising it would grant him power. On August 28, 2016, Platon arrived at Bolshakova's apartment in Bolshakova. There, Tregubenko and Bolshakova, along with Tatiana and Alexander, performed a satanic ceremony. They drugged Platon, then Tregubenko stabbed him multiple times. The group dismembered the body, consumed parts in a ritual feast, and buried the remains in the forests of Leningrad region near Priozersk. Tatiana and Alexander later claimed they thought it was a staged ritual, but evidence showed they participated fully. Platon's mother searched tirelessly, but his body wasn't found until 2021. How did Tatiana and Alexander get involved? In 2016, Alexander learned he had cancer. Tatiana claimed a satanic ritual could cure him, conducted by Olga, whom she met online. Soon, the two couples met at Bolshakova's apartment. Olga convinced Alexander to participate in the rite, though, according to him, he didn't suspect until the end what was happening. The pair believed it was about simulating a sacrifice, as they had once witnessed such a performance. Days later, a missing person alert for Platon Stepanov appeared on the Ministry of Internal Affairs website. It hung there for years alongside Viktoria Zaitseva's photo, as rumors that Andrey had committed at least 2 murders spread among occult practitioners since 2016. Tregubenko and Bolshakova fell under suspicion for Platon and Viktoria's disappearances. But without bodies, law enforcement lacked grounds for arrest, and during interrogations they claimed ignorance. Yet the group didn't stop, feeling utterly untouchable. They waited just a month and a half before their next crime. In the same August, in Bolshakova, while intoxicated, Tregubenko got into a conflict in an apartment building courtyard with an acquaintance. During the argument, he stabbed the man in the neck, leading to his death. According to investigative committee materials, afterward, Andrey, Olga, their new acquaintances Tatiana and Alexander, conducted a ritual rite in another apartment, using the victim's blood. This blood remained on Tregubenko's hands and at the murder scene. Years passed. The investigation into the missing persons was hampered by the absence of bodies. The victims were considered missing without a trace. Meanwhile, in 2017, Andrey and Olga had a daughter, and in 2019, another one. Whether more murders occurred during this time is unclear. It's hard for me to believe such people could stop. Everything changed in 2021 when the couple was arrested, not for the missing persons case, but for distributing illegal substances. The strangest part was something else. The criminal case for distributing prohibited substances in Bolshakova was initiated by the Investigative Committee of Karelia. Andrey and Olga were first transported to the Karelian town of Medvezhegorsk. It was in those vicinities that Moscow resident Viktoria Zaitseva's phone signal disappeared. After that, they were moved to Petrozavodsk and arrested. During a search of their apartment, a large quantity of illegal drugs was found, along with numerous knives and a strange brownish liquid resembling blood. All these years, the investigation into 3 missing people continued in parallel. Billing of phones showed the suspects were near all victims at the times of disappearance. Viktoria Zaitseva's mother was told suspects had emerged after 5 years. Just days later, she learned the brutal truth. I'll tell you now. She started getting deeply involved around 2013 or 2014, I think. I don't know. She didn't tell me anything. She said she was going on a hike with friends. Where, when, for how long? She told me for 10 days. The investigators asked Andrey's sister to take the detained couple's 2 children. At first, during interrogations, Tregubenko presented himself as the sex head, ready to take the blame for Olga, selflessly defending her. But when rumors from lawyers reached him about her false accusations against him, that he allegedly raised a hand to her and forced her into illegal substances, his stance changed. He was forced to tell the truth. For 5 long years, Viktoria Zaitseva's mother lived in uncertainty. Only in 2021, when the accused in ritual crimes were transported from Moscow pretrial detention to Karelia for investigative experiments, did she learn the horrific truth. It was then, based on these people's indications, that her daughter's remains and those of the other victims were found. In that same grim year, Platon Stepanov's mother received news of her son's death, whose body was found buried in the dense forests of Leningrad region. Operatives, verifying Olga's words, found human remains, bones, and fragments of arms and legs under Priozersk, which were then sent for genetic examination, confirming it was Platon. During the investigation, the most detailed testimonies came from Tregubenko, which isn't surprising. He was aware of all the events in this occult criminal drama. His defense was built on the claim that Olga coerced him into the ritual murders. In April 2022, the 4 accused were transported for sanity evaluations. Based on several psychiatric examinations, they were deemed sane. During this period, a human rights activist visited the psychiatry center, to whom Tregubenko stated, "This was all a long time ago and we had children after everything. I've come to faith, realized I did something terrible. The devil tempted me. I told everything, cooperated with the investigation. Now I'd like to confess." On April 9, 2024, the Moscow Regional Court issued a verdict in the case of murders committed in Karelia and Leningrad region by a group of Satanists for the purpose of using the victims' organs and tissues in ritual rites. The defendant's guilt was fully proven. Andrey Tregubenko was sentenced to life imprisonment. Alexander received 15 years in a strict regime colony, and Tatiana 13 years in a general one. And it would seem the 4th guilty party, Olga, should have gotten the maximum term possible for a woman in our country. But Bolshakova entered a pretrial agreement and was sentenced to 14 years in a colony, though the other 3 convicts claimed she was the organizer of everything. Bolshakova pointed investigators to the burial sites of all victims. Due to the almost completely decomposed remains, identifying the deceased was extremely difficult. In addition, as compensation for moral damage, Bolshakova was ordered to pay one victim's mother 2 million rubles, and another's mother a little over 250,000. In the trial of the other group members, she testified as a witness. During 2 hearings, she gave testimony via video conference. The true number of Andrey Tregubenko and Olga Bolshakova's victims is unknown to the investigation and has become the subject of numerous debates, as they were arrested only in 2021. The investigation leaned toward the version that from 2016 to 2021, Tregubenko and Bolshakova could have committed even more ritual murders. In court, Tatiana and Alexander claimed they didn't drink blood or eat meat. However, Olga and Andrey asserted that all 4 did. To sort through all the twists of what happened, dozens of hearings were needed, and still a mass of questions remained, mostly formal in nature. Most likely, the sadists were just shifting blame onto each other to distance themselves as much as possible from the horrific accusations. Acquaintances and relatives of Olga said Andrey was to blame, while his side pinned all the guilt on Olga. Perhaps this way, everyone tried to preserve the couple's human image, though they had long lost it, descending to the level of cannibal tribes. And who actually drank blood from the chalice isn't that important. This story more resembles a horror movie plot than reality. The 2 little daughters will likely see their mom very soon, but their father never at all. Another question arises. Andrey and Olga were free for a full 5 years. Could they really not have killed anyone else? Subscribe to the channel to be the first to learn about similar stories. You've been on the Longchick channel. Take care of yourselves. Until next time.